Hope you're ready, ladies and gentlemen, for a hot and heavy kind of a program. Good evening from the cold, dark depths of a secret dungeon somewhere deep in the remote Pacific Northwest. I am Jeremy Scott. The name of tonight's episode, How So Fitting, Weaponized Warfare. It's a hot and heavy program tonight. So good to have you with us. I mean, take a look around you. It doesn't take, as they say, a rocket scientist to understand that the environment is going through some changes and that it just doesn't feel the same. And the question is it being manipulated? And if it is being manipulated, is it to blame for the hell that's been perpetrated on Earth? It's been a lot of violence by police officers, violence against police officers, violence against ordinary citizens. And I'm just beginning to wonder if there's something more to it. It certainly appears that we are under attack and that it is just not all, as they say, too good to be true. Now, I think the case can be made that there is a lot of manipulation going on these days. And one of those questions that I hope to address tonight is whether these environmental changes, the state of affairs, whether that has anything to do with synthetic biology and with transhumanism. Synthetic biology, defined in Wikipedia as a multidisciplinary area of research that seeks to create new biological parts, devices, and systems, or to redesign systems that are already found in nature. And transhumanism, of course, defined as a philosophical movement, the proponents of which advocate and predict the enhancement of the human condition by developing and making widely available sophisticated technologies able to greatly enhance longevity, mood, and cognitive abilities. I think a lot of us have lost some of our cognitive abilities, and it may not be that we are going crazy. They may have been taken from us by who knows what or whom. And I don't think I'm far out there to say that I think that there's something else at play here. And it is leading people to do what they're doing, or in some cases, to not do what they should have done. A lot of common sense has been thrown out the window, particularly over the past year. A lot of people have surrendered to get the vaccine and then struggle to tell you afterwards why they got it. It's as if they were led to pasture. So honored to have welcome back to the program tonight, Elana Freeland, because I've been hunting her down for months. She's been hot and heavy on the trail of everything that's been going on. And trust me, it is all connected, or most of it is all connected. Elana is a writer, a ghostwriter, a teacher, a lecturer. She researches and writes on deep state issues like the 7 geoengineering operations, which, of course, we've talked about with her before. She's a big expert on MK Ultra, ritual abuse, targeting, which is, there's a lot of that going on as well. People are being targeted, and specific people, not just we're just picking ordinary people. I mean, I'm sure there is some of that going on, but these are targeted individuals, and targeted means targeted. She also has written and researched about invasive electromagnetic weapons, and in the past couple of days, there has been information that has come out that has shown that more of these electromagnetic weapons have been used, and we'll tell you about who they're being used on and get Elana's take on that. She's author of Chemtrails HARP and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. Also, Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown. And she's currently finishing her latest book, which is called Geoengineered Transhumanism: How the Environment Has Been Weaponized by Chemicals, Electromagnetics, and nanotechnology for synthetic biology. It's going to be out in late spring. She is here now because this information so very vital to get out to the audience. I want to welcome Elana Freeland into the Parabnormal.
Hey, hi.
What have you been up to?
Writing. 2 years now of my life have gone into writing the third and I hope last book on geoengineering. I'm on the last chapter, and it's the best in a way, the most important, I think, because the whole book is really about this last chapter I'm writing, which is on nanotechnology. And nanotechnology is the missing key piece that we all need to know about in order to understand what's happening to us and how we're being manipulated on a scale that I highly doubt that we have ever been manipulated on, what I call the tiny world of the microbes. And of course, now we're hearing about microbes quite a bit, microbes, pathogens, etc., through the drama that we've been involved with for over a year now. But it goes even further than that. And I thought tonight, if you don't think I need to go over everything for new listeners, I kind of feel like I should go.
Let's get an introductory statement, Elana, because a lot of the audience is going to be hearing you for the first time tonight.
Okay, great. So I've written about the environment before, and in the previous two books, I was writing about the chemical trails in the sky and what they are, what they're not. They're not contrails. They have chemical signatures, very obviously, to anyone who knows any chemistry. And in those trails, it isn't just pollution. It's actually that the trails are being used to deliver various pathogens, chemicals that the people who are running these programs, these very covert, high security, national security programs, that they want to experiment with in their impact on the earth, the soil, the air, the water, and also their impact on human beings and animals. And so we've been undergoing this quiet experiment for over 20 years. And I came across it while I was researching for some other books I'd written, Sub Rosa America, A Deep State History, books that are about a series that is about what's happened to America since John Kennedy's unpunished assassination. And I had a file on chemical trails, chemtrails. Chemtrails is a term from the U.S. Air Force Academy, by the way. And I was asked by Adam Parfrey from Feral House Publishing to write a book on chemtrails. And that's how I started. But I was also friends with Clifford Carnicom, the independent scientist who was doing research the very early of anyone outside the CDC or the EPA about what was falling from the sky, sort of like a chicken little. Remember that story from childhood? The sky is falling. Yes, what a wonderful story.
And here it is. The sky is falling.
Here it is. And Clifford was collecting a lot of precipitation and detritus from his HEPA filter and coming up with the first inkling that we were receiving over the internet of what was really happening in these long trails that would sort of dissipate out over the hours of the day into a white cloud cover. And so I'd been friends with Clifford, and then when Adam asked me that if I could write a book, I said, yeah, I can. So that book is the meat and potatoes, I would say, of how this whole program works. And it was all built around a very special ionospheric heater, a HAARP, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, up in Gakona, Alaska. And when I finished that book, I ended it with a whole chapter on Clifford's work regarding Morgellons, which was the name given to a particular set of symptoms that also had some sort of fibrous pathogen that he was able to isolate and take apart and look at under a high-powered microscope, and then create cultures with in petri dishes to learn more about what the heck this was, because he saw right away that it was partly organic and partly inorganic. And as he went further and further and further into it, he discovered various parts of it that were obviously genetically engineered. So that was very important. I finished that book with that chapter. And then that book gave birth to the Under an Ionized Sky book 4 years later, wherein I was looking at how the electromagnetics fit into the chemicals and the pathogens and all the 7 operations of geoengineering. We only hear about solar radiation management now. And, we hear various parts of disinformation about that. We hear about climate change, we hear about global warming.
Okay, so Elana, what are those 7 geoengineering operations?
Oh, good. I was hoping you'd ask me that. Okay, so because I went over it the last show too, it's super important.
Okay, so give us the shortened Reader's Digest version, I guess.
I'm going to read them, and you're going to have to read the book in order to figure out what they mean. But there is weather engineering, and most people think that's all geoengineering really is up to, but that's not true. But the weather engineering is a very, very large part of it, because it takes place in the sky, it's moving weather systems around, it's barometric pressures, and it's using electromagnetics, lasers, et cetera, to do it. And chemicals. The chemical trails are a big, important part of it. So first is weather engineering. And then weather engineering goes into chemical electromagnetic engineering and operations. And that then leads to planetary geophysical. Are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great, because something changed on my screen. So the planetary geophysical is the 3rd operation. And then it goes to the directed energy weapons operation, which is in space and in our atmosphere. And then it goes to things we should be very interested in. And recently, Elon Musk sent up all those satellites, and you've got to be asking yourself, what the heck is he doing up there? The surveillance and neural operations. Neural meaning our nervous system, the mind control stuff. And then the 6th operation is the one that my book is primarily about, but I go into everything else. Digital biology and nanotechnology as they serve transhumanism. And then the final operation is the 7th, and the most enigmatic, and usually the most interesting to people. And recently we've been hearing a lot about UFOs sightings going on again. And that is the cloaking and obscuration and detection of exotic propulsion craft in these chemical trail clouds that are left in the sky. And I have to include there also plasma life forms are also being detected by a lot of our high-tech surveillance that we have at our fingertips. Our being the United States, but also Russia and China and other countries are all catching up to what we're doing with this geoengineering, as it's called. It seems like such a small name for such a huge weaponized system. So the Under an Ionized Sky went into detail about how really through the electromagnetics and the chemicals, we've been locked down. We're now being held in an ionized sky dome in a way over our heads. And we're breathing in all the nanotech that is being distributed by the chemical trails, by the GMO foods, and by the vaccines. There are 3 delivery systems for laying the groundwork for a future human 2.0 transhumanist version, cyborg version, brain-computer interface version plugged into AI systems. And I know this sounds like science fiction.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. People are going to say a lot of this cyborg stuff is science fiction. It's something that we're going to tune on and watch on a movie night on Saturday night with the family or something. This is 2021. We've seen the last year that everything we thought we knew, we don't really.
Exactly. And it is true. They being the global elites. That's how I explain who it is. That's a very complex term, but It'll do. And they are moving with a great alacrity now because they were waiting to get to a point first where the sky had to be ionized. And that was what the HARP and chemical trails thing did. And that took 10, 15 years of a lot of experimentation with weather. We've seen amazing hurricane activity. We've seen tornado activity. We went through Fukushima. We went through what happened, earthquakes in Haiti, et cetera. We have, for the last 2 decades, we have unknowingly been watching not climate change. We have been watching geoengineers at work with amazingly sophisticated technology. Now that the HARP operation has opened up the ionized ionosphere, so that now we can pull that down into our atmosphere and use the ionization, the battery-ready atmosphere, the antenna-like atmosphere, the movie theater-like atmosphere for all the different operations that the military had in mind as they served what Catherine Austin Fitts called the secret space program. If you want the overarching reason for all this, I have to say that I'm totally sold on this idea that the overarching idea is the secret space program. And it goes back to a Soviet astronomer, Nikolai Kardashev, and he was back in the 60s when he said that the phases of technological achievement that had to be achieved for any civilization aspiring to a real space age, in other words, not just being confined to planet Earth, but being able to move throughout our solar system and eventually galaxy. He said there were 3 phases it had to go through. And the first phase certainly looks familiar to me everywhere I look, the full spectrum dominance of planet Earth. And that phrase I used in the title of the first book, full spectrum dominance, that's a doctrine of the American military. And it does mean full spectrum dominance over the electromagnetic spectrum, which goes all the way, as you know, from gamma rays to radio waves. And then we have a very tiny little, teeny weeny little place where we can visually and with our senses see certain electromagnetics, but all the rest remains mysterious to us. And therefore, the technology that now is coming of age, electromagnetic technology, most of which we don't even know how it works or that it exists, it can be weaponized so easily by those who are dedicated to power. And that's really what has happened. We've gone from the missile age, from the nuclear age to the missile age, and now the missile age is completely over. And we are in the electromagnetic directed energy weapons age without even knowing it. And now what's happening is the the everyday world of the 60 hertz wiring in our walls in America, 50 hertz in Europe, to the lovely cell phone, which I refuse to own because it's a weapon system.
Weaponized warfare.
The top secret government project that can destroy the world.
One of the most dangerous projects the United States government has ever attempted.
When it comes to controversial science projects, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, or HAARP, is right up there.
It involved efforts to control the weather, that it could disrupt the magnetic fields of the Earth sufficiently so as to trigger some earthquakes.
Polluted water can turn ordinary people into violent criminals.
He said something that really hit home about this phenomena of chemtrails. And then we started to see a whole bunch of
Weaponized warfare. Between twilight and the witching hour, there's a place we call Into the Parabnormal.
My guest, Elana Freeland, and if everything could be weaponized, the question is why? And a very, very shocking thought, polluted water can make people act out, they say. Tiny particles, as we know, some smaller than a grain of salt, perhaps in a vial that's put in from a vaccine into someone's arm, and through a variety of other weaponized methods. And so my guest tonight, Elana Freeland, who is author of the amazing new book, not yet out but coming soon, Geoengineered Transhumanism, How the Environment Has Been Weaponized by Chemicals, Electromagnetics, and Nanotechnology for Synthetic Biology, is my guest tonight. Really, everything can be weaponized? I mean, I guess it's possible, because it seems these days that everything is connected via the internet. I mean, without the internet, there is no show. So I understand that.
Well, let's continue from where we were before the break. I was talking about Kardashev's theory that, the greatest civilization with a space age would have to achieve 3 phases. And the first one is full spectrum dominance over planet Earth. And as I said, that's what we're undergoing now. And you can look at it from an economic point of view. You can look at it from a socio-political point of view. You can look at it from a biological, medical point of view. I mean, no matter where I stand now, and, this is one of the things that goes with having a lot of knowledge about something. It's as though my lens now is trained on how they're going to achieve this full spectrum dominance. And it's almost achieved, I have to say. The second phase sounds even more outrageous, and that is to have control over one's star and its systems. Now, that would be controlling the sun, and that just sounds ridiculous. How could you control a star 92 million miles away that's pouring out a tremendous plasma heat? How could you do that? Well, they're doing it, and it's one phase after another. And certainly studying plasma, which is what the sun is basically made of, is one of the big parts of that. So a lot of plasma experimentation is going on in our atmosphere now that it's ionized, now that it's antenna battery ready. So yes, control over the star. We keep hearing how CMEs are coming in and how there's nothing we can do. And we hear how the solar minimum is going to create a mini ice age, blah, blah, blah. But that's because nobody understands that the weather is entirely, and I mean entirely, engineered now. So they can use the solar minimum for what they need to use it for while it's here, until that's one natural cycle that will change. And the natural cycle is larger than their capability, but they can utilize that natural cycle. And I'd have to say that's the way they're approaching everything, including transhumanism. They have to use the natural that has been already made and has developed ways of surviving for millions of years as their example, and then they just mimic it and maybe twist it a little bit here and there to go in another direction. So, that's how they're pursuing the first phase, the second phase, and then the third phase is almost laughable, which is control over one's galaxy and its systems. And yes, am I saying that NASA, that the top brass at NASA and the Air Force and Navy are engaged in this? Yes, I am. I am saying that. The very top, the very elite of these agencies have occult knowledge. They are not just materialists. They have tremendous acumen regarding how to manipulate the physical matter of the earth, the forces of the earth, and now they're obviously, I mean, it's right in front of our faces now. They're manipulating the human being and moving the human being in a direction they want it to go in. And to me, I understand how hard it is for people to keep in that big picture. I mean, I'm a writer, and I've always been a big picture girl in a way. I mean, I've always studied big systems. I like systems. I like to be able to see how they fit together. And yet I'm somewhat practical in life, so that I don't starve. I always live sort of on the edge so that I'm not distracted from the things I want to pursue as a knowledge base, because I really want what we call wisdom. And I think that you only gain wisdom through knowledge and self-knowledge. Mm-hmm. So that's my pursuit, and it has been for many, many years. And I'm very disciplined in that pursuit. A lot of people are now afraid because there's so much going on. As each part of life is being weaponized, we're, in a way, the veil is falling, isn't it? And where the curtain is getting pulled aside by Toto in The Wizard of Oz, and we're beginning to see the man behind the curtain who's making us afraid and making us controllable. And that's good. That is very good. Though it's painful and it's scary. But we're here for knowledge, which leads to wisdom. We're here as human beings to evolve, not to evolve at the will of Pfizer and AstraZeneca and Bill Gates and Fauci. All these, we're not their puppets. And I mean, obviously, some people seem to think they are their puppets, but most of us want a true humanity. We want our own evolution, our own free will, as we pursue that path of the evolution of consciousness. And so it's important for us to face the pain and the fear of suddenly the curtain being pulled aside, and there's the man at the machine who's running our lives for thousands of years. This particular class of people have been at this. And now there is you can feel it. It isn't the Aquarian age yet, but you can feel this impulse, this push toward consciousness, even in people who aren't particularly good at it. We can only go so far as we put the will behind our actions and our thoughts and our feelings to go. And that's something that a lot of people, millions of people, don't know yet. They don't know how to do it yet. They're floundering around. They're making bad decisions. They're doing all the things you do when you're in your late teens and early 20s when you think you know everything, but really you don't. And now you're going to have some pain, and you're going to have to go through a few things in order to develop yourself enough to realize this is a very big stage, that a very big drama is being enacted on, just as Shakespeare told us. But, it's not a metaphor. It's really true. And yet you have to dig through all the hiding and the subterfuge and the cover stories and the bold outright lies. You have to make your way through that in order to see what is happening. And it's not easy. I mean, I spend my whole life doing this. So I understand with a lot of people, they've got to make a living right now. They've got a mortgage to pay. They've got kids to raise. They've got a lot on their plate. And they depend on people like me, who I'm 73 now. And I have the health, which I've kept all these years very purposefully. It isn't luck. I have done nothing but support my immune system all these years. No doctors, no hospitals, no drugs, no vitamins, and all the rest, to build an immune system based on nature and natural food, so that I would not be a broken down old lady, and I could pursue my passion for the truth and the wisdom that flows from the truth for a fulfilled life. And I really want to share what I have learned so that people can join me in that pursuit, because it's way better than living in fear and violence and anger and all the rest that we're seeing scale up these days due to the psyop that we've been under now for almost 2 years.
And I'm at Ground Zero here in Portland. I know exactly what you speak of, Elana. And two words that you said in the last segment really sticking with me, and those were the words curtain and drama. And it does appear to be one big drama, as if the curtain is opening on a play. In this case, pulling the strings at one end is, local politicians who are, saying they're doing what's best for their communities. And, first they closed the curtain, literally, and then they opened it up a little bit, and they opened it up a little bit more, and then they close it some more, and then they open it up some more, and then they close it a little more, and it's a big act.
Yes, it is. And yet we too are players on the stage.
We are.
We're there. Yes.
Pawns pawns on the board, players in the game, sheep in the herd. I could go on.
But I choose to see that's the other problem with this particular drama. And I don't know that Shakespeare really helped us out on this part yet. Is that there's sort of a sort of dual plane going on here. So the top visible plane, you can see that, and that's what becomes so frustrating, because you see like what's happened in Portland. I've watched it too, up down in out, up down in out, puppet 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 puppet, and yet there's another layer underneath that. It's like a subterranean layer, like a sub rosa layer. And that's the one whereby you're dealing with much more than you can see. And this is where you have to get, metaphorical, mythical, metaphysical. And a lot of Americans just have been so programmed by materialism and its wiles. With the TV, the one-eyed God, that they don't realize there's this whole other subtext that is super, super important. I mean, way more important than the Fauci, Bill Gates BS on the surface. But if you don't know it's there, then you're not going to be much of a player on the field of action in the drama. And this is where, a lot of people wonder at my sanity. Well, and I know they're thinking that. They smile at me, but I know they're thinking that. When I say that what I do, if I'm in touch with that subterranean level, which I am, then everything I do is larger and has more of a signature in the time zone, if you will, the fourth dimension, that is still playing out and is still being formed. There is everything to say about it being plastic in the sense of the real word plastic. I don't mean plastic the way we use it, but where it's malleable, it's fluid, it's still forming, and that's the solution. The solution, the greatness, the wisdom, whatever you want to call it, is in that particular area. And if we can root ourselves in the deep layers of the earth life, not just the shallow, superficial, lots of fun and games, colors level that, TV has convinced us is all there is. If we can do that, then we tend to be larger players than we really know. And I don't mean that, as some sort of ego trip here, because this will be unseen and unheard and unnamed as we go forward, as the new histories are written by the winners of tomorrow. This is how it works. You have to have a deep inner life in order to be a real player. And do the elite top dogs who study esoterics know this? All the way to the Satanists who are, they also have their esoteric knowledge. Yes, they know this. They know this very well. And so it looks to me, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, Jeremy, that they're in a big damn hurry right now. They're pushing every day, boom, 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 boom. What's the hurry? What do they know?
Well,
we don't know.
I mean, yes, but I think they actually could have, had they wanted to, done it a whole lot quicker, as scarier as that thought is.
Done what?
Everything they're trying to do. Everything that that this total domination thing, I mean, I think they could have actually done it, rolled it out sooner. I mean, why wait?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? And I think I know the answer, but it's pretty radical. I think that the ones I have my eye on, and if you read my Sub Rosa series someday, you'll see me talk about them, because I've made a real study of the elite in order to understand. First of all, their children are not raised like our children at all. Second of all, they do not subscribe to the same emotions we subscribe to. They are built differently. The bloodline elites, and I have a certain amount of compassion for them, because they're even beyond machine. There's something else. I don't know quite. I don't know that I have a word for it, but I know that the human soul, just as it is in all the stories about demons and vampires and all the things we've been taught are fiction, the human soul is extremely valuable. And we're not just talking the human soul of a Beethoven or a great scientist. We're talking just about the soul itself, which of course is invisible, but has substance, has some sort of substance to it. That's been said many times in much of the literature, particularly the literature that came out of the 19th century, which was getting more and more materialistic as they were weighing the body just before death in the bed, and then weighing the body after death and seeing, several ounces change. This idea of the soul, I think, is something they want to capture. And the only way you can capture the soul, as you know, I'm a student of Rudolf Steiner, many years now. The only way you can capture a soul, at least up till now, the only way, is by its permission. It has to agree. And this is why so much now, as you notice, we are in the revelation of the method phase now. They're showing us pretty much everything. I mean, a lot of it people don't want to see, like all the satanic stuff and the pedophilia and the adrenochrome. And
yeah, we can turn our eyes or hide our eyes from it, close our eyes to it, and shield our kids' ears from it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
That's right. And up till now, we've pretty much done that as a survival tactic, but it's not going to work really for consciousness anymore. That's obvious. It has to be acknowledged at the very least. And so this desire to capture the soul, that might be one of the reasons they've waited. And the way they do things, the way this Klaus Schwab comes out and gives this big speech and pretty much tells us what we're going to do, it seems to me there's a bit of a hope that you're going to be overwhelmed enough that almost knee deep in dust, magnetic dust.
Nano dust.
It's nanodust, exactly. And that's what you see in the California fires. Jamie Lee, A Plain Truth, videographer, very good, does a lot of videos. Jamie Lee did one called, in his series on the Paradise, California fires. He did over 100 films on that fire. In number 51, you'll see frames of quote unquote embers racing along the highway, faster than cars, through both sides of the freeway, burning, already on fire. And these embers are racing down in a certain pattern on the way to where they were programmed to start another fire. That's what they were. These are metamaterials. These are not, these are swarm conscious entities. And, they're kind of alive and kind of not alive. They're kind of organic and kind of inorganic. And they can be, if you have microprocessors in them, tiny, tiny computers, which we have tiny, tiny, tiny everything, then you can direct them remotely to go and do whatever you programmed them to do. And that's where you can see what Eric Drexler, why he sat on his invention for, I think he finally wrote his PhD thesis in 1990, but he'd been working on this stuff since the early 70s. But he didn't know what to do about it. His conscience bothered him because he was an academic, yes, but he knew there were people who would abuse this. And you know what? In the book I read, not one mention of the military. Do you think the military wasn't following every grad student who was a scientist? Of course they were following them. Of course the military knew about this technology, but it was like the person who wrote this book called Nano was doing everything he could not to mention that. So how long has the military been working with nanotech? I would say from the 70s. And now we have it in us. We have fullerenes in us. We have carbon nanotubes in us. And gee whiz, they're so tiny, they're nano-sized, they can get through the blood-brain barrier very easily. So when we look at people not able to think anymore, not able to read and concentrate, not able to retain anything they read, who jump to emotional conclusions with no thinking, instead of despising them or judging them, is this what's happened to them? Is it the nanotech has taken over their brains in a way, and it's all clogged up, and they can't really think their own thoughts anymore because they've got a cell phone, of course. And I told you, I don't own one. It's a weapon system. Why do I want to own a military weapon system? I don't want to have one around because it will pulse me. It will pulse me with frequencies that are not mine. I already have to deal with my computer because writing would be a pain without the computer, and researching. Everything is breaking news now. I mean, I can't go to a library. They're all shut down anyway. I can't go to a library and study the last 10 great books on nanotechnology, can I? I have to pick through narrative and patents and papers and conferences and a lot of YouTubes in order to get a whole picture that I can stand behind and write about. So anyway, Eric finally wrote his paper, and then it was boom, out. But it wasn't until 2002, 12 years after his paper came out and was published as a book, that the U.S. Congress gave, I don't know how many billions of dollars, thank you very much, to pursue nanotechnology because it's cheap. Oh yeah, it's cheap. Okay. It's cutting edge with no testing, no nothing. No. We'll figure it out as we go. So that's where we're at. And sometimes I can feel them moving around. And if some of you out there can feel them moving, yes, you're right. You're not losing your mind. You're not making it up. You're not imagining. These fibers have various entities in them that are unpacked once they're in our bodies and they start making what they've been programmed to make. And so what do we do about it? Well, there's various people pursuing ways you can survive this and thrive and not be completely trashed by the fact that you have a government that will use you as a lab rat for anything that comes down the pike. I've recommended Tony Pantalaresco, who's a Canadian herbalist. He's worked with magnetics and various techniques to get the nanotech out of your body. I take his baths, what he says to do. I take two baths a week. I'm pretty low key because I'm writing and I don't want to devote a lot of time to this because I'm so busy getting this book out. So you all know more about this stuff.
Yeah, Elana, we do have a call, so I want to go ahead and welcome Minnesota. Hello, you're on with Elana Freeland on Into the Parabnormal. Who's this?
Hi, this is Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for calling.
Yes, the question I have, it kind of goes back to when she was talking about how she thought the vaccines, Elana thought the vaccines were possibly had nanobots in them or these microfibers. My question is, Elana, do you think that the vaccines that are given to children these days might possibly have them as well?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So do you believe that the vaccines that children have been getting, like the polio or whatever vaccines that we have to have, the DEPO and all that stuff that children have to have when they're little, have been having the nanobots ever since they've been little?
Oh, yes. And I would say that the vaccines are entirely a big pharma thrust toward transhumanism. So they will piggyback whatever they want to test on the vaccines because, as you know, you cannot hold them liable for anything, any side effects that your child or you have. I did not vaccinate my children. I lied. I did whatever I had to do in order to keep them, and I kept them from the doctors. Absolutely. So, it's unfortunate that we have gotten to this pass where we have this magic pill idea, and that now the mRNA interestingly enough, and I've read quite a bit on it because I had to write a chapter about it. Interestingly enough, the mRNA purposely bypasses the immune system.
Yep.
So that it doesn't even know what's there. Now, come on.
Let's just say there's a new kind of vaccine for a new kind of virus. Do you see where we're going here?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I mean, if I were a parent today of a young children, I would dig in and start educating myself as to, is there a virus? Not just in this case, but what is a virus? Truthfully, a virus is nothing more than a helper trying to get toxins out of your cells. But you have been convinced over a century of programming and conditioning that a virus is evil and bad, and that, the germ theory is right. We're all being attacked by a dirty world, and we need these vaccinations in order to be able to face what might come, but probably won't. And so, a parent's fears are played upon for the sake of profits. It's disgusting. And I hope that will have its day in court, as this German lawyer is now bringing a huge class action suit against those who have created this so-called pandemic, who are basically big pharma. And I hope that one day that one of the things that will be addressed will be this use of fear and bogus viruses to make people vaccinate their children with vaccines that are piggybacked with God knows what.
Elana, I wanted to get your take before we go on a story that I found in preparation for this program. We have talked previously with you about directed energy weapons, and you mentioned the fires earlier. We've done a show with Elana where there's smoke, there's fire, so check that out if you're interested in hearing more about this. And she goes into some further detail about everything that we've discussed tonight. It says here from ZeroHedge.com, and the newest dramatic allegations against suspected Russian malfeasance, the Department of Defense on Thursday, that would be this past Thursday, revealed that it believes the Russian military targeted U.S. troops in Syria with directed energy attacks in order to make them ill and unable to conduct normal operations. I don't expect you to be briefed necessarily on this particular report, Elana. However, it shouldn't be too shocking considering everything we know.
No, I'm not shocked because of the present so-called administration, which will use the Russian card any chance it gets, for one thing. And I really don't know, after 4 years of no war, I'm really quite irritated that now all of this activity is going on again over by Syria, Ukraine, etc. And I can only imagine that U.S. troops were once again experimented on. By whom? Well, not by the Russians, but by the good old Uncle Sam. I mean, remember how many soldiers have opted not to be vaccinated? 60,000, or I can't remember the number, a very large number. And they're still being given free will, which I was actually quite surprised by. But that was under the previous administration that was decided. So now we're again facing, like you brought up before, Jeremy, about the Cuban embassy. Is there any doubt in my mind that it was the U.S. who experimented on its own diplomats? None whatsoever. I have thousands of those cases. I can't put them all in the book. There are so many. It is, again, Nuremberg trial number 2 material, that whatever this is that has been running America into the ground, Peter Dale Scott's great term, deep state, comes to mind. we've got to deal with this. This is beyond it. It's just beyond the pale. I mean, I'm almost speechless, which, and speech is one of my gifts. I'm almost speechless at the level of evil in this government. And for a while, I had some hope. Now I realize that, you know what, let's roll our sleeves up and get to work.
And unfortunately, we're out of time, Elana. It always does go by too quickly with you. I wish you all the best with your new book, and make sure everybody checks that out. It's Geoengineered Transhumanism. Take care, Elana.
Thanks, Jeremy.
My pleasure. And again, that's Elana Freeland, my guest tonight. I thank you all for being with me from the cold, dark depths of a secret dungeon somewhere deep in the remote Pacific Northwest. Have yourself a wonderful Saturday night, Sunday morning, and we'll talk to you again next time. Good night.